Hello, everyone. I'm David Riggleman, Communications Director for the City of Las Vegas. Thanks for joining us for Access City Council. Coming up on this show, Baker Park undergoes a complete renovation, and we'll give you an update on the city's major effort to offer much-needed services to the homeless, all within the Corridor of Hope. With me today to discuss these topics and much more is the councilman who represents Ward 3. You know who it is. It's Mr. Bob Coffin. Welcome back.
Well, thank you very much, David. It's good to be back with the folks. Yes. It's my last year. I didn't file for re-election, so I'm just whiling away the hours.
That's right.
Doing nothing, of course.
Sometime this year, probably around June, there'll be a new councilman representing,
there will be.
or woman representing Ward 3.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. 7 good people have filed. I thought there might be 15 or 20, but only 7. And so it gives the public in Ward 3 and the citywide, of course, the chance to look at them, see who's going to do.
Make a choice, yeah.
I know I'll be hard to replace, but let's face it,
I was just going to say that, Councilman. For those of you out there who are wondering exactly where is Ward 3, we're going to show you, no worries. It's basically the east side of the city of Las Vegas, of course, with the appropriate 3 on it there. But if you live in that area, work in that area, then you are in the city limits of the city of Las Vegas. And you are represented, if you live there, by Councilman Bob Coffin, at least for the time being.
Well, I have lived there since 1951, except for a breakout for college and military, but I love it. It's still my town, still my hometown, and all these other people are welcome to live with me as long as they are good people.
Sounds good. Well, one of the things that is coming to your ward, I know you're very excited about this, big doings for Baker Park and Pool. Needed a facelift over there, was due for one. So,
well, I remember when it was built. Fremont Junior High built at the same time around the mid-50s, maybe 56, 57, and I was in grammar school at the time, but it was a brand new thing, new kind of concept, junior high school. And the park beside there also started a new process where we share parks with the schools. It's a great joint venture.
Well, we said this on social media. This was great. We tweeted this out. The Las Vegas City Council approved the contract for the reconstruction of Baker Park and Pool located at 1100 East St. Louis Avenue. And with these improvements, Councilman, you're getting a nice look at the rent.
Well, our house was at 1101 East St. Louis, if that tells you, right
so
across the street.
You were right there. Yeah, you could walk over.
Sure. And it's going to be beautiful. We just have done something new. We have given up on trying to keep the turf alive there. So we found a new brand, the latest and greatest low temperature kind of turf. You want to call it AstroTurf, you can, because everybody else does, but it's not that brand. But it's going to be good and hopefully not as hot in the summertime.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So, Councilman, we're doing a complete renovation of the park and of the pool. So this place, if you haven't been out there, folks, you can see there's a lot of work going on.
And there's a lot of youth that want it, too. I'm hoping that it's done by the summer.
That's what it will look like eventually, yeah, right.
Yeah, well, let's hope it's all done by summer. I mean, obviously, there's always delays of some kind, but I really am hoping that it's done earlier in the summer than later, because the contractors would do us a great big favor for the kids of Las Vegas to be able to use it.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially for the pool, that's when you need it, is during the hot months. But they're making progress. Obviously, they're working away out there.
And those soccer fields get a lot of play at night. And that's why the grass could never stand the play it used to get before soccer. But the last 20, 30 years have been an enormous drain on turf. So that's why we're trying this new experiment. We encourage people, when it's finished, to come on out, take a look at it, put their hand on the turf, see what they think.
Yeah, that's been the issue. The artificial turf we've used in the past saves water. You can play on it all the time because you're not having to reseed it. The maintenance is much less, but it does get very, very hot. This new brand that we're going to use, hopefully, will eliminate some of that.
That's right. Midday summers have always been a no-play time, but then who wants to play when it's 100 and 110 degrees anyway?
Yeah, right.
But the point is they can play in it earlier in the afternoon than before. So that, to me, means 2 or 3 hours more useful life for the park every day.
Perfect. Councilman, also you have big news coming out of Harris Marion Park. There's going to be some changes there as well, right?
Oh, well, where there was no park. We now have one, or we're going to have it finished. Basically, folks, if you remember, this is right next to the wash. This means it's not a square piece of land or rectangular, but we're trying to make it that way.
That black thing that runs across your screen there, kind of diagonally across the screen, that's the wash itself.
And that is a place that commercial businesses would not want to use. And it's near schools, and for that reason, it has a double purpose. And it gives us space for a small soccer field and a more of a regulation-sized soccer field. But it also means it's just open space, and it's no longer a dirt pile. next to the wash. Now we've had to buttress it a little bit, which added some expense, but soon that's going to be another play place on the east side of Las Vegas, which we needed so badly.
Yeah.
And now we're finding every kind of piece of vacant land we can, from, I swear, a half an acre up to 3 or 4 odd-shaped acres.
Right.
We'll take them. We'll do something.
And we've had good success doing this. These little strips of land near the wash, we did that with Doug Selby Park. Turned out really nice.
Oh, absolutely. So not only Harris Marion, but there's another one coming downstream, another one inside the city limits. So we'll use all we can wherever we can find it.
You're working hard to get these in before you leave office.
Trying, or at least get them started.
Exactly. Well, what's the time frame, Councilman? I meant to ask you this on Harris Marion. What's our time frame on that? What are we looking to try to accomplish?
Well, this year, but it's like, I don't know, and I don't want to guess. I mean, it's like, if I said a certain day, well, it might not function that day, and then people would be upset with me. And we're subject to contractors, and we're subject to weather, subject to so many things, but it's going to have a lot, and I hesitate to even predict. It'll be this year.
All right.
That
Sounds
much
good.
I can guarantee.
Right. Sounds good.
Yeah,
Sounds
just
good.
folks drive by, take a look, and you tell me.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
It's right next to our walking trail.
Yep.
So for that reason, there's all kinds of things to see in the walking
right
path,
along the
and
wash
places
there.
to,
Yep.
if you have to stop for some water or relieve yourself, that'll be another place you can do it.
Sounds good. Councilman, I know that one of the projects you are very, very happy about, this has been one of your, really one of the legacy projects that you've worked on in your ward, is the library. East Las Vegas, believe it or not, folks, had no library to speak of until Councilman stepped in, worked with the library district, worked with a lot of different partners, but we got this thing to come together, and we're looking at an April opening for this?
Yes, we are. If all goes well, April 25th, it's a Thursday. The public will be invited to be there. We want to make sure on the date, naturally, and so, but you can say that time in April will be the date. And that's going to be a marvelous place. As you can see, if you drive down Bonanza, you can see what we're doing. We've saved a lot of trees that were at the former Housing Authority property. Okay, all that was taken out years ago, but the land was left unused.
Just sat there.
It was shocking, that open space, and so consequently we seized upon it. In a great three-way trade with the school district and the Housing Authority, we found the land. And so the library that's on Las Vegas Boulevard in the corridor of Hope near Cashman Field will move here to this location soon. And one of the bonuses for the neighborhood is that there will be Wi-Fi. And that Wi-Fi will radiate into the neighborhoods, assuming there is, the construction, the usual kinds of building obstacles and things. But there will be plenty of Wi-Fi for people to maybe park there in the parking lot or in their apartments nearby.
Awesome.
So the kids will be able to do their homework. Because the east side of town is electronically deprived in many ways. The old donut hole analogy is always used, and East Las Vegas is the hole in the donut. But there will be a lot there. The most modern facility you can possibly have. As big as, and certainly I think more modern than Summerlin or the East Sahara Library. These kinds of things are things to be proud of. The city's really done a great job on this, and I know that the folks in the neighborhood will appreciate it.
I know you're happy too with the architecture on this, Councilman. You were telling me that with the glass, we got a little bit of a glimpse of it there. You're able to see through the building. It'll let light in and out. It'll be very attractive to the neighborhood as well.
Yeah, those people who can pause on Bonanza, or perhaps get into the parking lot to be, if it is not blocked, we'll be able to see that there is glass on the north and south facing sides. So yeah, you'll be able to see literally all the way through it. Now that is, believe me, it's energy efficient. That doesn't mean we're going to run big air conditioning bills. Those things will be plenty. They'll be glazed over really nicely, and I think they'll be able to be curtained off and so on, so that really no sun can get in if you don't want it.
Perfect.
But the trees help shade it. So we were very blessed to be able to save as many trees as possible.
Yeah. Yeah, they were very, very mature. I'd been there many, many years. You probably are more in tune.
Well,
with
they're
that.
piñons, and so they're not going to have a long lifespan, but what they're there has been saved. And we'll have a tree planting program, as we do throughout the city, to replace trees that are aging out or getting close to their lifespan, and we always plant new stuff.
Yep.
So that will always be there. Well, I'm looking forward to that. Be great 50 years from now.
Yeah, sounds good. April 25th, by the way, folks, that's the day we're shooting to dedicate the new library, open it up. April 25th in the morning sometime. We're thinking around 10 o'clock. More to come on all that as the time gets closer. Councilman, tell everybody we have a couple things coming up we want to make sure they're aware of. The Teen Talent Showcase is coming up.
Yes, it's coming up soon at East Las Vegas at our community center, February 16th, Saturday. Come on, folks, and watch these young kids perform. They're coming from a bunch of schools, most of them from the east side of town, but there are others. And there's going to be a little rap contest. There's going to be all kinds of talent, and so we have a lot of rewards for them. We want to recognize anything that young people do. So there will be professionally recording as well. And I think what happens is a lot of people will come and see who's good, who's best, who's the next.
Right.
You know, so you never know who's in the audience.
How many times have we done this before, Councilman, at East Las Vegas?
No, it's our first.
The first one out there. Because I know we've done this in other places around town, but this is the first one.
I hesitate to call it annual, though, until we know it's happening again after I'm gone. So we certainly want to make sure that
it's going to be a hit.
Continues.
Yeah.
It's a good place to have it, and it's a place that, again, is starved for that sort of recognition. And East Las Vegas Community Center is very, very nice. It's amazing how comfortable it is. It seems small. It's very, very friendly. And then you look around and you see there's a lot of space.
Oh, that ballroom's huge in there, yeah.
So all ages are welcome, and we have a lot of events there.
It's right at the corner of Stewart and Eastern.
Yes, on the site of the old Las Vegas National Guard Armory.
Right
we
there.
used to know, those of us who were kids.
Yeah, that's right. So February 16th, Teen Showcase. It's going to be a lot of fun. And then coming up in March, Councilman, March 23rd, we have the annual Cesar Chavez Day and March here in town, right?
Well, yes, and it's the 6th annual, and we hope that that'll also be continued forever. It is, you know, Cesar Chavez was a labor leader, but he was a kind of built up from the soil kind of a guy, born in Yuma, Arizona. And he worked in the fields, and his family did too, and they recognized that people were being abused. People who were migrants as well as domestic citizens of the United States were being really abused and underrepresented, underpaid in the crops, particularly in California, the Central Valley, hundreds of miles of profitable land, profitable for the agribusiness, but not profitable to the workers. They were taken advantage of, they were abused. And so he became the leader of all of those folks. And frankly, it was an area that organized labor had not paid a lot of attention to. They were used to industrial stuff, East Coast stuff, maybe the docks on either coast or all coasts, but they never paid any attention to farm workers. So when he started the Farm Workers Union, and he wasn't the only person, but he was a leader, he was a figurehead, he was the one that got beat up. And his march, the Great March to Sacramento from the fields, is commemorated every year at this.
Gotcha.
And they make stops in recognition, and lectures are given, very brief. So it's exciting for people who are not used to either knowing about the farm workers, but the fact is that this American-born person took on all problems for migrants and or people who were, shall we say, usually undereducated and overworked, and made a big change.
Yeah. Well, that march is going to take place at Gary Reese Freedom Park, which is basically there, Mojave and Washington, kind of in that area. If you want to take part, it's going to be noon to 4 that day. And again, it's the commemoration. You kind of march around the park itself.
Sure, there is that, but it's also a car wash, there's food, there's entertainment. There'll be trucks, so to speak, for food, the kind of stuff you might expect. It's good because it's a good place. Saturday morning, sometimes it gets a little windy in March, but we soldier on, and as he did in his, in his kind of, the obstacles that were thrown in his path, well we don't even care about those, because he paved the way for a lot of people.
Yeah, he sure did. All right. Well, Councilman, good stuff. We need to tell everybody out there we need to take a short break, but when we come back, an update on the Corridor of Hope and how the area will offer the homeless just about any services they need all in one place. That's next, so please stay with us.
We'd do anything for kids. Yet 1 in 6 children in the U.S. struggle with hunger. Help end childhood hunger near you. Learn how at feedingamerica.org.
Papa!
Welcome back, everyone. It's a project that's been in the works for some time now, a one-stop shop to help the homeless with things like social services, job assistance, housing, and anything else they might need. With us today to tell us more about the Corridor of Hope is Kathy Thomas Gibson from our Community Service Department. Kathy, thank you so much for being here. You are the director of that department. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
This is a project that has been very near and dear to Councilman Coffin. The Corridor of Hope is not actually in his ward, but this is something he's been very passionate about making sure gets off the ground.
Yes.
Well, there was no other place for it. It's just where people have congregated over the generations, right there, you know, in the north part of town, near the railroad tracks in that area, Main Street and Las Vegas Boulevard, when they come together near Owens, the city limits. And so after trips to other cities over the last couple of years, we determined the best thing we could do is to try to develop a centralized place where, rather than sending people to another place for various services, we would try to house them in one place. And housing means simply maybe shelter, shade, a little cooling air, a little warm air, and a fence to protect them, because that's the main thing is they have to stay awake all night just to stay alive. And they can sleep in the day, and that's the problem. We don't want them sleeping all over town.
Kathy, explain to everybody why the Corridor of Hope, specifically our courtyard that we've created here, or that we've created and are going to expand, why that concept was needed and different from the other social services that are already there. People say, well, you've already got Catholic Charities and Salvation Army and Shade Tree. Why do you need the courtyard that the city is now created?
Indeed. And all those partners are very important into the larger scheme of addressing homelessness. The courtyard is a triage center, it's a resource center, and it's low barrier. So for example, we have individuals who may be intoxicated. They cannot get into the mainstream shelters. We have homeless people who have pet companions. They cannot take the pets into services. We have quite a few folks who have all of their worldly possessions with them, and they can't leave them on the street, and they can't take them into services. So the courtyard is a place where we'll help you store your personal belongings. We will allow you to keep your pets with you. We do not break up family groups. And if you're having some other issues, it could be mental health or substance use issues, we do not require you to address those issues before you come in for services. So we are a low barrier resource center so that we can ensure that everybody who's ready for help, whatever stage they are, can get that help.
Kathy, explain to everybody out there too, they may not be aware of this, but typically the shelters that have existed through the different nonprofit organizations won't allow people to stay within that shelter 24/7, right?
That's correct. That is another challenge. So typically the overnight shelters, folks go in about 6 p.m. and they come out at 6 a.m. So from 6 a.m. throughout the rest of the day, there are very few day centers where the homeless individuals who access the sleeping overnight can be safely. So that's why you may see encampments popping up on sidewalks or people sitting in the doorways of businesses, because until recently there was no place else for them to go at after 6 a.m.
Exactly. And Councilman, that's been, I think, one of your big issues with this, is that we're going to try to fill that gap that has been created by just the way policy has been set up from some of these other organizations.
Well, you can't blame them. I mean, it's private property, their property, but here we have no barriers for religion either. There is no requirement that you must swear an allegiance to any particular belief set or be part of a religion. There are no requirements like that, which is, as you can imagine, government should not be involved in. But the temptation to force people to do that is that's the privilege of those that are, private.
Sure.
But in reality, a lot of people, they just don't care about that. They really don't want to hear it anymore because they are out of life. They're out of luck. And here is a good chance for them to start making their luck, even if they're wet when they come in. As Kathy has said, they could be intoxicated on drugs as well as alcohol of some kind. We don't know whether they're mentally ill until they come in. We can guess, but see, we're living with the court dictates. The Supreme Court and the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals have said, we can't just hustle people along. So you see people in parks, for example. It is a mess. And then they're in the neighborhoods when they're chased out of the parks because we don't tell them to leave just to be moving them or hassling them. We cannot do that. That is just absolutely forbidden unless you have a place for them to go. And we don't have enough space yet. So this courtyard's going to have to be 3-4 times as large. And also, frankly, the county of Clark is going to have to pitch in, and probably North Las Vegas. Yes, I'm sure North Las Vegas. They're going to have their own.
Just right there on the border.
We cannot sustain it for everybody. I know the county is taking action. They're trying to find the money. We ourselves, the city of Las Vegas, have a proposal in to raise money, which will be up to the legislature. So if we can do that, we can then get more people out of the parks, out of the backyards, out of the empty houses where they're squatting. You know, today, when we see this show, you know, this will be around Thursday or Friday of a week where there's going to be a lot of snowfall, probably rain in the valley again. Do you want them staying in your house or in your backyard, sneaking in and or on your roof or any place where there's a kind of a shelter? No, you don't. We want to be able to tell them you can come to the courtyard and here's how you can get there, and if you need a ride, we'll take you. That happens.
And Kathy, I think one of the things that we've tried to accomplish at the courtyard as well is that, as we mentioned in the lead-in to you being here, it's a one-stop shop where people can go, regardless of the services they might need, they can get plugged into those services. If it's substance abuse, it's housing, if they're just looking for a job.
Absolutely.
It's a place where they can access those services.
Indeed. So we have nearly 24 different partners who actually come on site to offer their respective services. So for example, last year, 2018, we helped over 700 people just get identification, birth certificates, photo IDs, health cards, clarity cards, so they can access other homeless services. And you don't know how difficult it is to navigate a system if you cannot prove you are who you say you are. And so that's a highly used service. We actually have healthcare providers coming on site 3 days a week, specifically to address mental health and substance use, as well as make appointments for healthcare out in the community. And we help transport our homeless guests so they can do those appointments. We have workforce connections on site 3 times a month doing job readiness, helping with job searches, getting resumes together. And best of all, we actually have employers who come on site and do hiring events, not job fairs where you walk around to a lot of tables, but hiring events. They come to the courtyard and say, look, I need 8 folks to do this and 12 folks to do that. And they hire on site, knowing the challenges that our guests face, and they're willing to give them a chance to get employed.
That's super. Kathy, what is the time frame? We've got a setup at the courtyard now, but the plan is to expand it. Tell us currently how many we can house on a typical night and what our goal is over the months to come.
Indeed. So I tell people right now it's a parking lot with some old buildings. We are an active construction site. We are demolishing older buildings to build new buildings. At full build out, we will be serving between 500 and 800 homeless guests.
Every day.
Every day.
Wow.
And there's 6,000 in the valley, at least, that we know of. And again, I think the most important thing for people to realize when they see this is that this is about public safety. This isn't about some sort of socialistic scheme whereby we pick everybody up and we house them and feed them for the rest of their lives. We're trying to figure out who is in the worst shape, sort them out. That's what triage does. So everybody who is homeless, everybody has had some sort of trauma in their life. We've learned that through our travels, the experiences in Texas, where some of us have gone, and now I've gone twice in the last 2 years. All of these places have learned that everyone has a trauma. It might have been early in life, it might have been late in life. They don't know how to cope with it. Their brains might be damaged from birth. So we've got to figure out how to get them away from causing problems with using humane reasons. But it's definitely public safety, and that's one thing we are concerned about, because I live downtown, so I see it every day. And men and women are walking by my house, or they're trying to look for a place to stay. And who can blame them when bad weather is upon them? You can't. But we do have a place for them now, and we're trying to get it bigger. But it's an emergency situation. We need the legislators' help.
In the past year at the courtyard, from January of 2018 up until a couple of weeks ago, we had 1,757 unduplicated people staying with us overnight at some point during the course of this year.
Wow.
It's a safe zone. Oftentimes, they are the victims of crime. It really is a public safety concern. And they often get mugged and beaten and other unspeakable.
We've had some violent crime within that population.
Indeed. Yeah. And so it's a safe place. The courtyard is a safe place for people to come and begin working a plan to get their lives back on track. No judgment, no questions asked. If you step across that threshold, we assume you've come to get services.
Right.
You're saying, please help.
What I love about this, is Councilman touched on this, is that what we're doing here is really a culmination of a lot of great ideas from other cities, Phoenix, San Antonio, Los Angeles, etc.
Yes.
We're trying to pick the best of those programs and create one here.
We're doing it our style too, though. David, it's a lot of people are involved. A lot of members of the council have really taken this to heart. Even though wards 1, 3, and 5, the oldest wards, are the ones most affected, there are homeless everywhere in this valley. A lot of people turn their back to it.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right.
It's an emergency, and again, I cannot tell you how many people are in there are committing petty crimes, some assaults on the general public, but it's mostly against each other. And that's why they need a safe place. I hope you didn't count me amongst those 1,700 and some.
No, we didn't count you.
I did spend some time there in the summertime, and I'm going to spend some time again this winter.
Yeah, just to experience what it's like, and so
those mattresses are not so bad.
Yeah. Kathy, if people want more information about the courtyard within the Corridor of Hope, we've got it on our city's website.
Yes.
The Mayor's Fund also is a place people can learn more about it. The bottom line, Councilman, I know this is something that the city is really putting its efforts behind, and we're looking for partners within government, within the private sector, and within the nonprofit community.
It's not free.
Yeah.
We can't get rid of this problem by just wishing it away.
Yeah.
And we can't depend on the churches and the welfare people.
Correct. Got to do it together. That's what Kathy's been preaching all this time. So, Kathy Thomas Gibson, thanks so much for being on the program. We really appreciate it. We'll get an update from you, I'm sure, as the time passes. Councilman, I want to tell everybody out there, hey, we always want to hear from you. So if there's something you'd like to share with Councilman Coffin, you can always find him on Facebook and Twitter. He's very active. And if you leave a comment, who knows, we could use your post on our next show. Love to hear from you. You can also contact the councilman at 702-229-4623 or send him an email. His address is lvcouncilman@hotmail.com, and that will go directly to the councilman himself. He will see it. So
That's right. It's personal.
Yep.
This is all personal work we do.
Yep. And you get back to them right away. You have your staff jump on it, or you jump on it, and it gets taken care of. So, Kathy, thank you so much. Councilman, we'll see you back here in 6 weeks with another update from Ward 3.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Kathy, for being here today,
Anytime.
for what you do for all of us.
Anytime. Thank
Ditto.
you.
Ditto. Well done. And we want to thank you for joining us for this edition of Access City Council. Don't miss our next show beginning on February 14th with Ward 4 City Councilman Stavros Anthony. You can catch all our KCLV shows now on Apple TV, Roku, Hulu, and Amazon Fire. Don't forget, you can watch us live on the internet at kclv.tv. We'll see you next time right here on KCLV, where we bring city government closer to you. Thanks for watching, everyone.